Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the, it's like I'm talking to myself. Did Katie drop off? You did not drop off. We actually have, I'm excited to announce some administration around this thing, so it's not going to be so loosey-goosey as it used to be. Katie is our office manager. She's helping me with this thing. She's helping put the YouTube videos together. You should have gotten a notice the last time about the YouTube channel and all the videos that are on there. Last week or last month was especially important because Delphs went so fast with FM Better forms that everybody really needs to like break it down and slow it down like it's an NFL game. But today, for your viewing pleasure, we have Mike Burgee, our famous Mike Burgee, talking about how to build an audit system within the FileMaker platform. And we're getting more and more questions about this, not only from the government on things like HIPAA or Section 11, which is the FDA drug approval process, but in general, there are some times when it makes sense to put an audit trail in your FileMaker system so that you can then either work backwards or you can see what happened, and it goes a little bit beyond the modified by and last date and things like that. So without further ado, I will pass the baton over to Mike, and away you go.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so we're going to start off by just talking about things from a non-technical, non-development perspective, starting with what is an audit log. So an audit log is it's like its own separate little database that tracks your database. And what it is, it's a trail that shows the actions taken to change data, whether that be at a record level, or if it's from a development level, changes made to layouts, changes made to your database itself, adding fields or removing fields. Audit logging isn't FileMaker specific. It's used in a lot of different platforms, everything from SQL developers to Oracle, small business, all the way up through the largest of the enterprise systems. Without realizing it, you are already using audit logs probably many times during your daily life, but you're using it from a different perspective in fact that you're making transactions into the audit log that you don't see. So say, for instance, you go to your bank's ATM and you make a deposit. There's an audit trail behind that for showing, when you started your transaction at the ATM, how much money you put in or took out, and then the authentication behind whether your PIN number was accepted. So there's a number of different things like that, so that when you argue with the bank and say, hey, somebody stole my ATM card, I was in Columbus, but my card was being used in Baltimore. The bank can go take a look at that audit log and see that, yeah, that kind of makes sense that, the transactions in that audit log are on. So it's a security driven system as well. The next part about an audit log is that it's chronological. Usually you're tracking changes through history. So a true audit log should be able to recreate the entire history of a record. So if I add a contact to my database, I should know not only when it was created and when it was modified, but who has made changes to this, who added that record in the first place, and who has made changes to that record over the many years that I've had it, who's communicated or talked to that. And then if that record gets deleted from the system, who's deleted that record? And that's something that FileMaker is actually pretty poor about tracking out of the box, unless you develop an auditing solution, is tracking deletions. So it's pretty easy to make a privilege set that doesn't allow people to delete records, but it's not very good at tracking when a record was deleted. So you just kind of have to know that, oh, that record's not in the system anymore. You don't have a place to go and say, this record was deleted on this date by this person. So that's what audit logging really does for FileMaker. The last part about an audit log is that it's privileged. And what that means is that you're probably going to be collecting a whole lot of data that you don't want people to be able to change or see. So you have to have a security plan in place around your audit log for who can actually read that audit log for doing the type of information gathering and reporting that you need. So while you might have the ability for any user to create records in that audit log through the actions that they're doing in your system, the actual reporting of it might be limited to just a few users, or even at the highest level of your organization, like the full access users in a FileMaker file. So that's what an audit log is. So why would you want to use it? Well, you might be required to use an audit log in such cases as HIPAA compliance, where you're tracking medical records for a patient. That's very tightly controlled, and they want to know, if somebody makes a change to that patient's birth date, when it was made, who made it, and when that information was collected, because there's a legal precedence in that. But it's also very important for audit logging things that you might not think about. Finance transactions. So anytime you write a check, where does that check go when it's getting scanned into the system? And more recently, of course, everybody's brought up the standards of voting. And a lot of people don't realize that when you vote, your vote is put into an audit log as well. And here in Ohio, when we vote, you can actually see the audit trail go by because it prints out on a little roll of printed paper as you're voting on the little electronic system. So that's pretty cool. But a lot of that security and safety around the transacting of data is done with audit logging. And then there's other use cases. A lot of industries use it, like Marshall mentioned, Section 11, but also things like forensics research, crime labs when they're checking out evidence. A lot of times, if you watch crime shows or crime dramas, you see it called like the chain of custody. That's an audit log. It's just a different way of doing it. So audit logs could be handwritten as well, whether or not it is electronically gathered or not. So another good reason to use audit logs, liability, of course. And liability came to a much bigger issue when GDPR came out in Europe a couple of years ago. You're liable for the customer data that you're storing. So of course, that if you're liable for that customer data, you want to know who is making changes to that data. So audit logging is very important. Another great reason to use it in FileMaker is it pairs very well with two FileMaker specific features. One is privilege sets. So you can control your audit log access and the levels of logging based on your privilege sets in your system. But also, you can also use custom menus in FileMaker. That's a second feature that pairs well with. Custom menus allow you to override what's going to happen when somebody deletes a record by default. So if you have a custom menu installed, even if your delete record is taking place in a script, it will still run your custom menu for action for that to gather that audit log information. So the last great reason to use it is that as a developer, so we've got a good mix on here of developers and users this week, but as a developer, you can build a modular log. So over time, you can build yourself a pretty robust standalone logging solution that you can then copy and paste and integrate with any file that you manage. So it's modular, and that means that it can be implemented quickly if you need to implement it for customers. All right, so I think that's enough talking. So let's actually show some stuff now. And we're going to start with the basics of audit logging. So at Mainspring, for all of our project development, we do what's called continuous improvement. And what that means is that we want to get something that's functional in your hands as soon as possible, and then build upon that in smaller incremental steps over time. And then that way you have something that's usable right away. But then as the longer you use it, the more improvements you make to it, the better it becomes. And then over time, you have a very robust solution. And we would take the same approach for adding an audit log for any of our customers as well. We'd start with a very basic implementation, and then we'd add trigger actions for when things were audited, and then we would add like reporting features for being able to view that audit log. So very basic audit log is going to look something like what I'm about to show you now. I only built this in about 15 minutes, but I haven't actually implemented anything yet. I've just kind of set up the structure. And the structure you're going to need for audit logging is pretty simple. All you're going to need is an audit table that's going to host your audit records. And in that audit table, all you're really going to need is some basic fields of collection, like what table were you tracking, what action was taken, and then some information so that you can write what I call like a human readable log. So if somebody reports on this information, they have a clear understanding of what happened. So it can be very basic as a starting point, just 3 fields. And then for an interface, you can just build a very simple list view. I've built a list view here that has the selected records details down here at the bottom, so that you can so that when you click on a record, you can see more information about it. And then, of course, if you want just a basic detail view. So I've put together a couple records in my inventory here. So when we're auditing in here, let's say that as a manager of this business, I noticed that somebody had deleted a record from my database, and I don't know who did it or it was missing, but I have a bunch of stock that's not attached to any product anymore. So forensically, without an audit log, I wouldn't be able to tell anything about that. So what I want to do is protect my database by implementing an audit log for the delete action here. So the first thing we're going to do is, we're going to put a custom menu together. So I'm going to go to Manage Custom Menus. I'm going to create a custom menu. Set. In my custom menus, I'm going to create a copy of my records menu. I'll call this Records Custom. And in here, I'm going to replace my delete record command with a custom action here. So my custom action is going to be a script called delete record custom. And now I can call that delete record. And now that will be in my menu. So back in my custom menu set, I will add, my records custom menu here. Okay, very easily. And then if I go under tools, I can show that custom menu set. So now I've got my custom menu that's running that delete record action. I'm going to switch back to my standard menu here. And now let's take a look at that script. So now that I've added this as a custom menu, I have complete control over what happens when that delete record button is pushed. This is outside of privilege sets. So if I've blocked privilege sets from being able to do this, I could do some custom stuff in here. So I could say like get count privilege set name equals user. I can show them a message saying like, you can't do that. Alt script or something like that. So I could do something like that in here, but remember what I want to try to do here is just audit log. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself an object of what I want to send to my audit log script. And then I want to perform that script that's going to perform that audit log. Now I already built a very simple save audit entry script, and we'll show that in a second. But for now, I'm going to put that in here. So our object is really quickly, if we look at the save audit entry, there's just a record here that's all it's doing is it's creating a new record and it's saving 3 points of data, the action, the table, and the info. So I need to create that JSON in here. Set element. So I'm going to make a new object, and I'm going to say table. Table here is products, or we can actually just use some FileMaker functions in here, like get layout table name. That's text, so I'm going to say it's a string. Then we're going to say action here, and this is our delete record. And I'm going to give it my product. Let's give it ID as well, which would be under here as primary key. So text string. And then I have an info key as well. So under info, let's say user name. Name. And let's put the part name in here as well, the product name. Oh man, what did I miss? Okay, so really this, my script to save the audit entry never changes. I'm just going to create whatever object I need to create wherever I am in my system. If I'm in the products table or the inventory table or the invoices table or the customers table, all I'm going to do is change the information in this object that I want to log. And then I'm going to say, hey, save that log entry for me. Now, of course, you'll want to do something like turn user abort off, and that means that nobody can hit the escape key to try to bypass this. This is always going to run. So let's just see where we are with that now. So I'm just going to go to my last thing here. I'm going to open up our debugger so we can watch that in action. And I'm going to put in my custom menu set, and I'm going to hit that delete record command. So you can see that's performing my delete record custom script, setting that object. If I look at that object here, you can see it's actually got our information in there that we're passing to that table, that script. Now we're going to perform that script. So we're going to go to that layout, set that data, commit it, and go back. And of course, at the end of that script, you now want to put like, okay, now that it is logged, continue. So I could do something like show a custom dialog. Are you sure? Deleting data cannot be undone. And finally, delete our record. Dialog. All right. So altogether, this thing of gear oil is now going to go away. I'm going to switch over to my custom menus again here. Do delete record. Are you sure? Yes. And now it's done. All right, so that record disappeared, but now if I go to my audit list, I've got that delete record in here. And if I click on that, I can see actually the details down here. So this happened at 1:20 p.m. It was done by the user account named admin. And I have a little human readable message down here that says user admin deleted record name gear oil. So if I need to go back and report this now saying, oh, hey, that gear oil is not in our product inventory, I can just find in here now for gear oil and find the record, the transaction log of this. So that's basics. That's basic audit logging in a nutshell. Now you can kind of think about where would you go from here of being able to collect this data. Well, you might want to collect more information. So you might want to have more robust timestamp information about things. You're going to add logging for different actions in your system. But again, you can add actions, but this script, your save audit entry script, isn't really going to change all that much unless you add more fields to your audit log. But for the most part, this is the part, since this is like more modular, you can copy and paste this table, copy and paste this script, and now you have some basic audit logging in another different system. All right, so let's talk about some more advanced features. And I'm probably not going to show you how to develop all of these. Some of them are.
Hey, Mike, we do have a question if you can take it real quick.
Yeah, I can pause for a question before we talk about it.
This is good stuff. Why are you making JSON objects instead of simply adding records of a table with fields of primary key, etc.?
So there already is that those 5 standard fields are in this audit log, but the reason I'm doing that is so it's modular. So I want to log all different types of things, but it's not always going to be the same information. So JSON allows me to pass more than one field to something else. This audit log, again, it's privileged.
Oh.
Yeah, thanks for muting me, Marshall.
It wasn't me, the other Marshall.
So you might be running this script here as perform script on server. That script might need to run in its own full access. You can actually see I've granted this full access so that it has the ability to run this table, because if I'm logged in as a user account privilege set, I might not have access to create records in this audit table except through the script. Remember, you want your audit log to be impervious to tampering. So you don't want a regular user to just be able to come in here and go like this and create a bunch of new records and say, oh, I added record. So if you abstract that and you turn that into like a modular script that takes that parameter, then you can very finely control the security access of how records are created in the table. And that lets you still apply the other privilege sets that say, like, only full access users are allowed to view this table, but regular users can't even view this table. So it's kind of like if you make then let's go back to the ATM example. If you make an ATM transaction, the single ATM is going to do audit logging for any number of 100 different things you can do on that ATM. But it's all sending that same one string of data from that physical ATM to wherever they're storing their audit log. So Chase probably has a data center somewhere that stores all the audit logging for all of their ATMs across a specific region. So in order to do that, I need to be able to collect that data modularly. So abstract, context-free, so to speak. So my context comes from the data I'm actually passing to the script, not the script itself. So this script will run regardless of the data that you pass to it. The only quality check I'm doing right here is just checking to see if it's empty or not. I'm not sure if that answered the question. I didn't actually read the chat window. Adding records to a table, fields of primary key. So yeah, but it's very similar in FileMaker to why you would pass parameters to any script. It's so that you can call that script from any one of a number of 100 different locations without having to specifically say, when I'm setting this table, that I'm gathering the data. So I'm gathering the data in one line here and then sending it, rather than having to have 50 different versions of this script where I'm setting these fields. So it's more flexible. It's easier to copy and paste it in different systems. It's easier to add more trigger points if you do it this modular way. And then Eric made a good comment on there. This doesn't require relationships either, although that's in my advanced list. So let's talk about some of the more advanced things you can do. So once you've started this kind of basic implementation of collecting, auditing data, there's a lot more advanced stuff that you can integrate. So like I said, I'm not going to show you this because each one of these probably takes a few hours to develop. But this would be the type of stuff where if we were having a meeting with a customer, we'd be discussing what their goals are and bringing up these features that you can build. So the first thing would be auditing to a remote location. And that's not just necessarily a remote FileMaker location, because you can certainly log in a file itself. You can also, here you could perform a script in a different file completely. So you could add a FileMaker source or a different source in here and then run a different, send the script to that file so you could have your auditing stuff in a completely separate file. But also, you could have it on a completely different server. So I could send that audit information to an auditing API. So I could have a different app entirely that's not FileMaker. That's my auditing system that I'm sending my FileMaker transaction data to. So it doesn't have to be in your FileMaker file. You can send that remotely to a number of different locations. Backing up logs. This is as important, if not more important, than your FileMaker backups itself. If you have your audit data in your file itself, you're going to get that as part of your regular FileMaker backups. But what if somebody was able to get malicious access and actually delete this table? Suddenly your entire transaction history is back to square one. So you have to think about backing up your audit logs as well to someplace. So fortunately, FileMaker makes it easy to write log files. There's a blog post if you go look at our FileMaker blog on gomainspring.com about using the file creation script steps. So as part of this, you could also do something like file as well, and then like open data file, write to data file, close data file, or something like this. Just have a place where that data is being backed up to its own text file as well. That's separate from FileMaker. So again, once you separate something from FileMaker, then it becomes a little more secure, because now it's, if your FileMaker part is taken down, you still have the ability to go back to that other part as well. So let's say that you do implement that. Then an important thing is to make sure that you're not storing those text files on your drive in just a plain text that's easily readable by anybody. So the next thing to do would be to actually encrypt the data that's going into those log files. So you can take this data that's being written here, and when you go to write it down here, you would encrypt the data first. So you could use, FileMaker's got the crypt functions or something like that for you to be able to encrypt that data, so that if anybody does get a hold of your text files, all they're going to see is a bunch of encrypted data that they can't read. But to you, you'll have the controls to be able to decrypt that data and read those log files from backup. So encrypting is actually probably required too in some cases. So if you're storing outside of a database, it's probably required that you encrypt that data. Change tracking, that's another thing that's important here. So the triggers that I showed you here were just like a record deletion that's tracking an ID of a deleted record. But if you actually want to track a change to something, like I'm looking at a product detail and somebody changes the part number here, 14. That original value is now gone to the wind. I have no idea what it was. Somebody came in here and changed it. So I could very easily log the change that happened. But if you want to log the initial value as well, there's a way to do that. So you would have this record represented. When somebody loads this record, you would kind of temporarily store these initial values in memory. So when you click in a field, it takes that and it stores it in memory, expecting that you're going to change it. And then when you exit the field, you would say, okay, this changed from this initial value to this new value, and now I can log that change. So actual change tracking of record information is something that's very important for things like HIPAA, where people, if you change somebody's name because they got married, there's actually a very large consequence of tracking that data. So change tracking is possible down to the individual field level, or you can do it a record at a time. So in another system that we built, we did the entire record as JSON, and then we diffed the JSON against the starting and the ending to get all of our changes out at once. So instead of doing it on a per field basis, where we had a transaction for every field change, we just did one transaction for all the changes. So it's highly customizable depending on what the business application is. All right, two more. Well, one more thing to talk about, I guess. The other advanced feature that you could set up for this, I mentioned when you're storing your audit log in a remote location, it's possible that you could potentially send it to an API of a system that is collecting your audit data. So that if you have a single system that's collecting auditing data from different apps and different things all over your organization, you can centralize it. But it goes the other way as well. So with the FileMaker Data API, you could set up your own API facade that would allow external, either third party or different applications within your organization to be able to access your audit log. So if you have something like a web application that's tracking audit log transactions to your stock, so that you can do inventory balancing between, let's say you're using like ShipStation or Shopify or something, and you have your Shopify inventory here, and you have your FileMaker inventory, and you want to run an inventory report about what's in there. And you find you have this product where it's not matching up. Your FileMaker system says you have 5 in stock. Your Shopify inventory says you have 0 in stock. So you need to audit what's going on there. So you're going to need an audit log. So you could set up an API for Shopify to be able to tap into to pull those transactions out and kind of flag those records, so that if there's say for instance, if there's a problem and Shopify detects it, it could take that, it could turn that item off in the store so that nobody's able to purchase it until somebody goes through and does the audit. All right, so those are some advanced features that you can do. Karen's asking what I'm doing. I showed the audit list earlier, but this is a very basic audit list. It's just a list view. And then as you click on each one of these down here, it shows you what that information is. So as you filled out this audit log, it would be like user, I normally like doing things with a human readable message, because if you think about the user, when a user sees delete record and then this big UUID here, they're not going to know what that UUID stands for. And they won't be able to search for this ID either, because it's been deleted from the system now. So the only thing that this can be used for is for like a developer like me to restore that record, so that any orphaned data, related data that was related to this original record could be restored if I re-imported this. So, the human readable message is something that you would want to display, but it's FileMaker, so you can customize this layout to be whatever a customer needs to see. And then you can control, again, it's privileged, so you need to control who can access this layout. And you might even be able to do sub-levels of control, so that, you have a finance admin and they can only view audit transactions from the finance module in your system. And then you have, a warehouse guy, and he's tracking all the inventory in here. So you can, it's very granular. You can control it. If you want to micromanage it, you can. But this is just a basic implementation that I'm going to show off here today. All right. Karen recommended the text field that has the record history. That was another one. It's kind of popular with FileMaker developers to have like a custom function that audits your record, and then I would have to find it really quick. If I can search for it here. Yeah, something like this. So here's a custom function that you could use to track changes, and then this stores your entire audit log for that record into a single text field. What I don't like about this is that it's kind of fragile and it's not really flexible because this isn't record data at all. It's not as searchable. You can't apply like the you can't apply the like find mode. You can't apply the individual granular privilege settings to here. So it's a lot more harder to control access. And it's very easy to wipe out one field's worth of data rather than an entire table's records of data. So if you want to do some audit logging with like a custom function, this one's really easy because it's just a single function and field that you copy and paste in all over your tables. And then it starts taking all of this data in place. A lot of these are also dependent on like what layout you're on. So if I have fields that aren't on this layout, they might not be tracked in that audit log because it's usually dependent on get layout, whatever the FileMaker function is that returns the list of fields on the layout. I forget what it is off the top of my head. All right. So at a basic level, that is audit logging. So Marshall, what questions do you have?
Yeah, so I've got questions. So if you're putting something like this together, and it cracks me up because basically the joke I tell everybody is I got fired from FileMaker development at Mainspring between 6 and 7 because I couldn't see through relationships. But back in my day, Sonny, when we had to create audit logs, it was a nightmare. So you had to know pretty much where everything was and what was going on. If I were to come up with kind of the audit log that rules them all, so to speak, where I'm keeping track of data before a field and after a field, after it's changed, and maybe in theory you could use it to do some restoration of data as well. Mm-hmm. How would you construct that? Would you construct that as a file that sits off to the side that you tie into every solution that you wanted to do an audit to, or would you put it somehow into tables and just copy all that into whatever solution you're working on?
Yeah, I'd probably do, again, the stepped approach to get them something that works as soon as possible. And maybe if you want to track field level changes, you're going to have to put triggers on every single field that you want to track changes for. So if you've got a system that's got 100 layouts in it or 500 layouts in it, and you're talking about bolting on a system, well, I'm probably going to build it in that system, put an audit table in there, start by doing the record level actions like deleting a record or adding a record, and then going back and adding those individual triggers. And maybe we just start with one layout and then we do it to different layouts. Or maybe we train like an in-house developer to say, these are the triggers that you need to put in place. A lot of those triggers can be written so that they're context-free, so that they can be copied and pasted and easily put on a bunch of different fields. But it's still going to take the grunt work, so to speak, of like, if you have 100 layouts and 100 fields on each layout, that's somebody that's going to have to go set field settings on 1,000 fields to 10,000 fields if it's 100 times 100. So there's a lot of that grunt work. So I would start with the framework, kind of like how we started in here, a place to store the data, the script that writes the data to that place, and then the trigger actions that trigger the writing of that data. And those three basic things would be the first couple hours of development in a file. And then from there, it's like, okay, now that we have the framework in place, let's start implementing that framework in all the different parts that need it. Yeah, it's so flexible that it really depends on the use case. And I know you said like the GOAT of all, the greatest of all time of audit logging solution. But I think that's not probably something that's just its own standalone file that you're going to bolt onto things. It might be a standalone file that you have that you're copying and pasting stuff from, but unless you already have like a very heavily multi-file FileMaker solution, I don't think that it's its own thing, because a lot of people are getting away from the multi-file systems of, you know, FileMaker 7 from 20 years ago, because
but
there's no reason.
We're still getting those, and it's
Still doing the FileMaker 5 conversions.
Yeah, if you didn't make the conversion between 6 and 7, it's like the old White Owl commercial. Sooner or later, they're going to get you. But what about performance? What about, you know, as somebody putting this together, is there anything I need to, like, if I've got a layout that I'm hosting and it has 100 script triggers, do I need to worry about any of that? Like, what should I try to avoid?
So the performance can be improved greatly by using something like perform script on server, or even caching transactions until that final like save happens. So if I started like tracking my field level changes here just locally on the user side, and then when he actually saves the record, I push, you know, 4 transactions at the same time up to the transaction log, then, you know, there's places to ensure that there's places and techniques to ensure that the performance stays the same. But a lot of these things are so small in their gravity, I guess you could say, that nobody's going to notice a performance difference. The biggest issue for especially for like field level tracking is making sure that it doesn't interfere with your other triggers that are going on, because a lot of people have, you know, for instance, like you have a phone number field and it's validating every single keystroke when you type it in to make sure that you're not putting in a dash, or, you know, that you're only putting in numbers, in a limit of 10 numbers into this field. So you have this script trigger, the validation trigger, that's firing after every single keystroke for that. So you need to make sure that your audit log isn't interfering with those other triggering processes. But for the most part, for field level triggering, it's 2 triggers that you're doing. You're doing the on object enter trigger so that you can get the initial value and store it, and then you're having the either on the save or on the exit, probably on the save, that you want to log that transaction. So any of these other triggers, the keystroke, the modify, the validate triggers, they'll have already run by the time your audit log's running. So it shouldn't interfere with those at all. And then if you have your own on object enter script trigger, you just need to make sure that when you script that trigger for whatever action it's doing, that you include the part that starts the audit log in that script. So this script doesn't have to be called from a trigger. It can also be called from another script.
Gotcha.
All right.
So what do you think the overall development load is then? If you took a classic 100-hour project to put auditing in, do you think it's a 20% uplift? Do you think it's a 50% uplift? What kind of?
Again, it's going to depend on how complex that file is. So a very simple, and that's why we go with the stepped approach. So a very simple idea is probably about to get the basic system up and running with all of the features that you would normally need, that framework to get started. It's probably only like 5 hours. Then you're talking about all of the grunt work that's involved to if I've got to go through every single layout, every single field and log this and everything, that's going to add on. It's going to be a little bit exponential. This table or this system only technically has 2 layouts in it. So, you know, that wouldn't take more than half an hour to complete. But if I had a system that had very complex layouts that had hundreds of fields on them, and if I have, you know, if the custom menu sets are already existing and I have to kind of go through each one of those custom menu actions to make sure things are proper, that's just going to add time. So, you know,
right,
10% is probably a good starting point for that.
Okay. I'm surprised you were able to get on the fairway there, because that's what, if FileMaker can do so much, the two questions you really can never answer is how much is it going to cost and when it's going to be done? Because
You can't.
you see it, you change it, you see a little bit more, the whole nine. So it's interesting. So we're pretty good on time. Do we have any questions from anybody?
I think Ryan's been fielding them in the chat.
Throw it out, or be bombarded with mainspring ads. How do I get a banner ad going? I don't know how. Well, this is good stuff, Mike. This is good stuff. Yeah, so we've already figured out, so we don't have to do any polls or anything about what April is going to be. We're looking at doing templated emails, and I feel like there's a lot of that going on out there, and Ryan is going to present this. He's had a few folks that have asked him for just beyond the just standard email kind of stuff. So Ryan's going to take us through there. Ryan, do you know any one thing that why people would want to come back and check that out? Can you give us a one preview? I'm not asking you to reveal the show, but
yeah, I mean, just a more professional feel to like your notifications and your communications with either your internal folks or even external, and kind of making sure that you don't look like you're sending these emails out on like a Palm Pilot. So I think it's important, and I think there's some good tips that I'll be able to share there.
Okay, awesome. So really the only add is we've added, I know that we've got some federal folks on here. We've added all of our hosting onto GSA. We do have I feel like I'm in a little bit of an anomaly because I'm probably the only non-certified group leader of a FileMaker team at the Platinum Partner level. Pretty much everybody else is run by certified guys. So I always ask these questions and I get these answers. And one of the questions I had a while ago was, why does FileMaker sell their on-prem server and give you 3 licenses? And the answer is because you want a development, you want a staging, and you want a production. So I went back and talked to my hosting partner, who was on the call a little earlier. He had to drop off, but we've put together for $249 a month a holistic hosting solution where you can have the dev, the staging, and the production. I think one of the challenges, and this is one man's opinion, is FileMaker is getting more and more complex. And in my day when I first started in the IT business, and I think I've told this story before, we used to just unplug servers and not tell anybody, and then plug it back in and it would come back on. And that was kind of the way of the world. I think FileMaker is really transitioning, especially since this last couple versions, where you can't just develop on live production servers anymore. It's a little bit hinky because if you do something wrong, you can get thrown into loops, you can crash things, you can screw things up. In theory, you could delete a ton of data. I know a lot of people have these techniques where they'll get a copy, they'll develop on it, and then they'll redevelop or they'll copy it up or whatever the story is. But our platform, and that's what we're calling it, a delivery platform, because it has these servers involved, it really protects you from the production server. And it's not just the end users that I'm talking about. I'm talking about, if you're a developer and you've got clients and you want to start hosting with us, which I'm running into more and more developers that want to do that because they just don't want to deal with the hosting side of it. It's a really pretty sweet holistic package that we've put together. Hard drive space galore, good servers, monitored, the whole thing.
And what Marshall has failed to mention so far as well, the two things: I am our product manager of hosting, so
of the platform, Mike.
Of the platform.
Remember, you got the field promotion last night.
Platform. You misspelled it in our email. You're building upon my experience for managing your server as well. But The other thing that Marshall didn't mention about our development platform that includes those 3 servers is that it also includes the deployment software for doing one-click deployments. So if I've got a file on my development server and I'm ready to test my changes with my customer, I'm gonna log into my little control panel, push a button. It's gonna take care of taking a copy of that development file, putting it on my staging server, importing my staging data, and then opening that up so that it's ready for my customer to test. And then when the customer signs off on it, says it's good to go, they do the same thing. You log back in, say I'm ready to push that staging to production. It takes that copy of the staging file, puts it on production, imports all the production data, takes care of disconnecting all the users, all that good stuff. So it's one-click deployments, saves you a ton of time to have, even if you know how to use the data migration utility, you don't have to do any of the closing of files, logging into different admin consoles, remembering all those different things. You know, log in, click one button, read the report. If something goes wrong, then you have us here as a support lifeline for you to help you out.
And I do think that different people's mileage varies. We're all about continuous development. We know the world changes, the clients change, your process change, whatever you're trying to automate with FileMaker. And if you're in an environment where you're developing on that kind of environment, where it's constant change, it's getting more and more risky and dangerous to develop on a production server. And if you're a developer, I would figure out a way not to do it. We figured it out for you. It's kind of point and click, but it's good stuff. And Mike was very instrumental. Like, he did it. That instrumental to put it together. So it's all there. Other than that,
yeah, we don't have to have any more sales call. But yeah. I did drop the link in there if you're interested in looking at our hosting platform. Please just check out the link and shoot us an email if you're interested in having a talk.
And that's actually something cool about that link too. Ryan has been doing some what we call SaaS stitching, which is putting together. I think we did a presentation on it, but when you order, you can order that online, and when you order it, it updates our HubSpot, our FileMaker, our QuickBooks. There's a variety of applications in the background that one transaction goes out. And as I had one prospect recently say that double entry is the devil, and I really like that. But GovCloud too. Mike is putting together some GovCloud servers, and that's going well.
FedRAMP specifically.
FedRAMP specifically, yep. So we kind of got every piece of the matrix covered. And I'm going to shake my finger at you guys. You know, this is your user group. If there's anything that you would like to see us cover, just send an email to answers@gomainspring.com. We'll figure it out and put it in there and get it on the list. Like I said, we've already got next month's figured out. It might be fun to do kind of a client spotlight too, or a not even a client. You don't have to be a client of ours. If you've got an interesting program that you'd like to share with the group, I think that would be kind of a fun meeting too, to maybe get 2 or 3 people that have something interesting that they can demo. Because I got to tell you, I call hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people per month. And the number one question that I always get about FileMaker, or the feeling of FileMaker, is we don't know what we don't know. Like, we don't know what FileMaker can do. What is it? What can it do? How can we do it? And those are usually the net new folks. And to put something together and you know, show folks, like, expand the vision, the peripherals, I think is good stuff. So if you're interested in you know, kind of working with us, I'll play the part of Johnny Carson. You can jump on the couch and show your system off. I would love that. Throw that to answers@gomainspring.com if you're interested. But other than that, if we don't have any other questions, I think we're good to go for March.
Yeah, my last note, since I see some people on here from Central Ohio areas, we're not having cough mug tonight. mostly because I was doing this presentation. So feel free to bug me by email if you're looking for ideas, or if you just want some social interaction that we normally have at that coffee mug user group. So
we're going to take this video, Mike, and just play it.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, everybody have a great day. Have a great month. Spring is almost here. It's I think it's going to be 60 degrees here in northern Ohio on Sunday. So I'm really looking forward to that. Get outside, breathe the air, do whatever you need to do. And we will see you next month.